Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report. And welcome, everybody, to another episode of My Independence Report. My name is Kevin McDonald. No, that's not me over there. That's me over here. This is not an optical illusion. It is the strangest damn thing in the whole world because I met Reverend Rob last week and was like, huh? How could that be? My brother from another mother is right over there. And even his lovely wife was taken aback.
Absolutely. She took a picture of the screen and has been sending it to her friends. So, wow. Okay.
Reverend Rob, it's a pleasure to have you on My Independence Report today. And we are going to do the Tarot with an Attitude on Friday on KKNW for Think Energy. But I wanted to spend some time with you because you have got I've had a very interesting past, but you have got a very interesting past in another way. And even though we look alike, your past is completely different from mine. Let's start with you were a police officer for a long time.
For a long time, for right at 14 years, and that was in the youngest stage of my career, my working life, things like that. I was 20, wasn't even old enough to buy ammo, and spent the next 14 years. But see, that's what happens when you go to Bible school and get your girlfriend pregnant at Bible school and you wind up getting married and you come out of there going, in the first semester going, I don't know what I'm doing. I got to do something to make some money.
Well, my goodness gracious. See, I didn't think that happened in Bible school, although I keep hearing differently, but apparently, even though I had a conversation with my mom. Do you remember that piece of paper that was going around that the young girls would sign that were evangelicals, that they would save themselves until marriage? Remember that?
The chastity agreement. Yeah, absolutely.
That was.
Yeah.
That didn't last very long, I'm afraid.
Well, I don't know. I'm a Baptist preacher's kid. My dad became a Baptist preacher later in life, and I was like in high school when he actually became a preacher. And we were around the circuit because of the Baptist fellowships and all that stuff. So I was very well known in the independent fundamental world with preachers and stuff. And when I showed up at the Baptist Bible College, they started a pool on how long I was going to be there. And I did not disappoint. I made it a semester and about a quarter. And like I said,
was it because you were too independent-minded?
Yeah. Rules and me just don't get it. There's a thing I do, and I just took a test, and we'll talk about that more later. But about why I do what I do, and it's know your why. And mine is why because I challenge everything. Because if we can do it a different way or better way, I want to do it that way. So it's not just let's just keep doing the same thing over and over. I'm built on why are we doing this way? Is this really what we need to do? Is this what we're working? So, yeah, I challenged everything. I
actually had an employer tell me, you're not a very good employee. and I said, well, what do you mean? And he says, well, you want to do things your own way. And you can't do that if you're an employee. So you better be an employer. Because then you can do things your own way. So you and I are very similar that way. By the way, if you're just tuning in, this is Reverend Rob Lee. He's all the way over in Florida. I'm in Seattle. We couldn't be farther apart, but we're not farther apart. If that makes sense.
No, we're not. Yeah. So that's getting to know me. That was kind of my early adulthood start. I I could do two things. I went to school. I had several vocal music scholarships. I was going to the college to be a music youth director type of thing. So, and that doesn't generally go over too good in the Baptist church when you leave because your girlfriend got pregnant in the dean's office. Anyways, it was one of those things, and we were married for, I think, right at 8 years, 3 beautiful children together or whatnot. But at that point, I had to figure out real quick, what am I going to do to make money? I now have a family. I'm 19, married, and had a kid. And I could do two things, sing, and at that time in my life, I was so full of anger, I could fight. And so I got into police work. And it seemed to work out very well for a while. But then again, in my challenge, I started challenging, why are we doing this? Why are we treating people this way? Things of that nature. And 14 years later, I walked away from it. Walked away from it.
What time frame was this? Was this in the 70s, 80s?
80s, early 80s, early 80s, 14 years into the early 90s.
It was an interesting time then.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Now you were part of a small police force?
Yes. The first department I went to only had 5 officers. Almost all of them had been arrested on a drug scheme by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So they brought me in young and stupid, and I was the senior officer at literally 20 years old, 19 to 20 years old. And they were like, that way you don't have any bad habits. It was the sergeant and my chief, and that was it. I rode around one night. They're like, you'll do. Here's a car, whatnot. And that was how I got started in police work. It was not the right way to go, but let me tell you something. I learned a lot of crap real fast.
You have no choice.
Oh, no. Sink or swim. So, and then I left there and I came back over to the East Coast of Florida, and 10 to 15 officers. I like smaller departments because you do it all. You do everything. Whatnot. So, have a lot of certifications in a lot of different areas and, went on there. But it literally became a thing of, I don't like where this is going. A lot of what you see now, I was predicting. And because people became numbers, attorneys were running everything, and we lost any ability to be individualized or have a personal relationship. So.
What was it like years later after that? And I know you probably watched it as I did when George Floyd was being arrested. What was your thoughts? What were you thinking about that?
Well, in the first place, the officer that was on top of him, I'm like, okay, there's an idiot. The whole point being, you just don't. I didn't know, and it surprised me. Like in this, certain states banned the chokehold. And I was amazed because when I started in 80, people talk about how backward Florida is. We had banned the chokehold before I started. So I'm like, all right, maybe Florida ain't so backwards after all. We knew right away people could get hurt. You don't mess with the neck, period. It's just, in Florida, it's off limits. Chokeholds are off limits. They're still off limits. They are not taught. You got to get an old cop to teach you how to do a chokehold. So if somebody's doing a chokehold, they've either gotten it from a martial arts class or they have gotten it from an old timer that knows what he's doing. But there's a reason you're not supposed to know it, because people can get hurt anytime you mess with the neck or whatnot. What I hate about that whole thing is, he was mistreated. We've forgotten everything about it. And we've idolized, we forgot that he was truly a criminal. So there was parts of this where I was like mad at everybody, mad at both sides, because it was like, that's not how you treat people. That's one of the reasons I got out of police work. And it still doesn't make him not a criminal.
Right.
We don't have a statue of Al Capone in Chicago. Let's face it, it just doesn't happen. So yeah, there was a lot of mixed emotions on me for that, and a lot of misguided things. And I started seeing how the media was leading people down different paths. And it was really troublesome for me.
Depending on
Still
which
is.
media you were listening to.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because they can these days, you and I are of a similar age, and I remember in a simpler time, but it wasn't a simpler time. But I remember the CBS Evening News. Do you remember that? Walter
Oh,
Cronkite.
yes.
And that was where everybody got their news, and he prided himself, as did Huntley and Brinkley and the other guys on the other channels. They prided themselves on all being actual journalists and reporters, and
Yes.
talking about the truth. And you could go from one channel to the next channel, and it would be very similar as far as tone, as far as content, and what the story was. They just reported what the story was. They didn't um, um, create a whole feeling around their viewpoint and become an editorial board as it were.
Exactly. They didn't editorialize the news. There was a half hour in the evening or an hour. You could find out what was going on locally in your area, and the news was just that. This happened. And they believed we were smart enough to interpret the stuff for ourselves. They just told us the news. And then they built all the editorials that people wanted to look at different things of it. But even then, if you remember what was really cool, they had opposing viewpoints on their editorial shows. And that way it wasn't just pumping one mainstream idea. Now it is whatever idea. And I listened to a young lady who is a new young journalist saying, well, most people don't understand it, so I need to tell you what this means to you. And that idea that we've all gotten mush for brains and we can't, hear the news and understand how it affects me, man, that's kind of, my
Well,
challenge factor is in overdrive.
well, and we live in a very strange time, and we are on My Independence Report when we're declaring our freedom from hate, division, and fear. And there is a lot of that going around right now. How do you see it, being that you were in law enforcement and you have paid attention? How do you see us getting out of that?
You know what? It's going to take some effort, and it's going to take people to leave some things behind. And I've always said, when we solve problems, we know what the very frenetic right wing right wants. We know what the very frenetic right wing left wants. The problem is the people that'll fix this are the ones like you and I that may have differences of opinion, but are able to sit down and say, okay, I know the ultimate goal. You know my ultimate goal. So what are we willing to give up to meet in the middle? And nobody's talking about that. It's all demands. It's all screaming. It's all yelling, and that's why everybody's like done. With regard to the race thing, I remember in the 80s when they were saying race is getting worse. Mm-hmm. The majority of police and things like that, they were saying, I think we're getting along better with everybody than what we have a better understanding than what we did in the 70s and in the 60s. We have more diversified thought at that point. It's like, okay, people, not a certain sector. But I think it's become a necessity to keep us all yelling and fighting. And that's one of the reasons I started Terror with an Attitude, to give people a place to come out. I'm called the Bangarang Man. What you put out is what you get back. Bangarang, from the movie Hook. And that's just important. It was a place to get people to come learn to heal.
Well, now after you quit the police force, you also went and got your master's degree, correct?
Well, I quit the police force. My wife was really pissed, and she's like, okay, what are we doing? Because I just did my typical time to turn the page, and the guy that hired me was a guy that I had arrested for a felony. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. But when I showed up for work Monday morning, it was a demolition crew. It shows you that don't assume anything about anybody. He told the work crew when they're all like, what the hell is he doing here? Like, first off, Nobody's ever treated me as good as he ever treated me when he arrested me, and he helped me out. Number two, he's the only one standing here who's got a damn license, and the cops aren't going to screw with him. So, and I worked for him a year and a half. This man literally wound up paying my wife's car payments for 3 months to help me out. Does that sound like any felon or criminal that you... There's so many other backstories and individuals that sometimes a mistake doesn't make who you are. And that was where I got into that. And then he actually got me my next job in the call center work. So this person I arrested for a felony took me on the next 10 to 15 years of my life where I made the most money I ever made at that time, got me insurance benefits, got me everything else, and I went to work for call centers. Went around the world doing different things and had an awesome time. It wasn't until 50 when my oldest boy, when I did so good with the call centers, they sold it. I came home from the Philippines and they said, okay, great job. You're out of a job. Now here I am at 50 with a GED. What am I going to do? My oldest boy said, you got to go back to school. Nobody's going to take you anymore without the paper. So at 50, I had a GED and went back to college.
That is an incredible story. That really is. Because, because when I turned 50, I had been doing the radio show and had been trying to make radio work. And I had been in sales and sales management for a long time. And I started applying again for sales and sales management. And I found out that at 50, I was too old.
You got to watch how you fill out a resume anymore because they don't like the age. It just, you're going to quit. You're going to go on retirement. You're going to screw up my medical insurance because of your heart, your stroke. You need a gastric bypass, whatever, And no, they don't like it. They don't like it. So I had to go make myself useful in the new world. And that was one of my sons teaching me that lesson.
How did you do it?
Just put my head down and started back. I went full time. And at 50, I just one goal at a time. Let me get my AA or AS. I got done with my AS. Now I'm going for my bachelor's. And I kept going. I did a lot of it online, but through University of Central Florida, Go Knights, fully accredited, one of the larger universities, and they were one that perfected the online thing. And then I got it and was like, I'm going to keep going. And I got my master's degree. 3 years later, I had my master's degree. Now I have completed another 2.5 years of supervision training as an intern, things like that. And I've submitted all my paperwork and I'm sitting here waiting on the state of Florida to go, bing, you are now a licensed clinical social worker. And I just turned 60 last month, or early this month, actually. So
what are you going to do with that degree? Have you decided?
Some of it is I want to do some of the online things. The other thing is I worked with addicts for a long time through my internship, through things like that. I worked at trauma center and grief, but I have done a lot of addictions work. The addictions work can be very tiring, but it's also very rewarding. There's no in the middle. You're either very up or you're very down. Some of that I'm looking forward to getting back into doing that again, but I'm trying to embrace more of the online, get people going. And that in that field is where I actually started using tarot.
And Tarot with an Attitude we're going to talk about that on Friday on KKNW, and we'll be even taking calls because he did some readings for us, and he is just phenomenal at doing that. But you are much more than just that, because I don't mean to say just that, but you are more than that because you're a man that's got a great heart, and you want to help people, and you want to do some marvelous things and have done some marvelous things with your life. And you want to keep going, and I applaud you. I think you're doing incredible work.
I agree, and one of the things I found out was stop being all fluffy. I don't do fluffy well. Every time we started to do the good cop, bad cop, I'd say I want to be the good cop this time, and before long, my partner's looking at me like, wait a minute, we flipped here somewhere and I don't know where. But sarcasm is a birth defect, and I got a double dose, man. So, in working with addicts, it became very clear. Most of them, it's not their first time at the rodeo. And it became very clear to me these people need somebody to just talk to them like they would. They need somebody to speak. I use language, I do whatever I need to do, but it's real. And they need somebody not to powder their butts and, we'll get it next time. Like, what the hell were you thinking? Yeah, how's that working out for you? What are we going to do to change it? What do you want to do to change it? And, that's where it comes out with terror with an attitude. I tell people a lot of times, like, don't shoot the messenger, but you just really did something stupid with your wife. you know?
Well,
flowers ain't gonna cut it, bro.
Well, because you've been down the road. See, I've known a lot of police officers because I was a bus driver for a long time.
And wow, I bet you did meet a lot of police officers.
I did, and I also met a lot of addicts. But mine was a different viewpoint in that I had no control over any of that. But still, when you're a police officer like you were, there is an understanding of life that you have gained over time and experience that most people will ever know, because you get to.
I lost you. Was that me losing you, or hold on a minute?
Back?
Let me see if I've got.
I got you.
My audio. What's going on?
Uh-oh.
Nope, I lost my headphones. Give me just a second. I got another set here real quick. And we will go from there.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is live radio.
All right, let me
reset.
Those
things happen in live radio.
So that ain't going to work. All right.
And we're going to test his skills at operating the computer and see if he can figure out how
There we go. There we go.
You're back?
Right. I'm back. I'm bad.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, let me rephrase that, which was that, because of your experience as a police officer, your work with addicts, and the people that are that a lot of people would call down and out, or having challenges, you have learned a lot about the human condition.
Oh man, and so much, because there's not much I haven't seen. From death and destruction and whatnot to joy and elation. I've taken it. I've delivered children. I've delivered death notifications. I've been there when people died. Yes, all kinds of it. And one of the things that drives me is to try to remind people we're all individuals. Nobody needs to be scooped into a one-size-fits-all anything. Because we may share some of the same symptoms as an addict or as an alcoholic or as a heavy person or whatnot, but it doesn't mean we got there or our life is anything like the other person. And so everything needs to be individualized. And that's one of the things that taught me in how to deal with people is this is an individual here. And that person needs to be treated on their own merit.
And a lot of times they don't even recognize that that's who they are. They're just lost.
And many times they think there's something they're actually not, because they've been told it so much, that they're stupid. They'll never amount to anything or whatnot. And these are people with an amazing potential. People say you can't, you'll never make a tiger change its stripes or its spots or whatever, a leopard change its spots. You know what? I did. Because I used to be, man, you wanted to fight? I was ready to go. Don't care. Just enjoyed it. Okay? Literally enjoyed it. Was looking at the whole, used to be the bad man competition in America, if you remember that. And then they outlawed it, moved it to Canada. And I'm like, damn it. I got busted at the one, here in, Florida, where I was. I kept trying to sneak in early with fake ID and stuff, and I was always busted. And then it became legal, and I was freaking old. I'm not going there and getting the crap kicked out of me. Are you kidding me? Some of these people, shit, they punch their mama. So
well, you're looking well, and you'll appreciate this. When I was 19 and Rocky came out, I decided I was going to go become a boxer. And I have the distinction of having my first amateur bout in the state reformatory at Monroe.
Okay. Wow.
It was also my last fight, by the way, because I learned in the process that I, being a relatively upper middle class kid, thought that it was a sport. I was wrong. It has nothing to do with being a sport.
No, it's who comes out alive.
And it's not even done tongue in cheek. That is the reality. And I was fighting an inmate. I forgot. Of course, I probably never knew that an inmate has very little else to do but train.
And not many ways to get rid of that anger.
Except for when they hit the short, fat white kid. Although at that time I was not that. I was really in good shape and all that kind of stuff. But I did not have the mental capacity to look at somebody and say, "I'm going to kill you," and mean it.
Yeah, that was the only thing that gave me a leg up. I was like, okay, if it's you or me, let's do it. That was I loved it. And I wound up teaching firearms. I wound up teaching impact weapons, self-defense. Yeah, no, you want to go? Let's go.
You see, now that's where you and I would draw the line, because you got the balls to do it. I would go, oh shit, he might kick my ass, and then I'll feel bad, and then I'll and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't, unless it was like on a football field or something. Then it was real aggressive. But out in the world, I wasn't much of a fighter, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, and again, a lot of that came from me from pent up anger, and my dad having me on the stage at the church at a young age. I was singing, doing whatever, so I didn't know enough to be embarrassed about some of my actions, and in that, I wound up. One of the reasons I say I'm not the person I used to be, man, I could embarrass my family because I didn't embarrass. So if I perceived bad service, I would just disembowel the waitress in front of the whole, I didn't care. It was horrible. And I took pride in it. When I walked out, I'm like, yep. And I thought it was cool when my kids would say, oh, Dad's taking the restaurant. Here we go. And I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, I put my kids through that.
See, you were one of those guys, because I was a restaurant manager.
Oh, yeah.
You were one of those guys that I would have to go and try and deal with when you were, so at that point it was like, give you food, just shut up. Just, here, take, what do you want? You want my wallet? You can have my wallet.
And now where I'm saying I realize that's not the way to go, that beast is still in me, but he's like under glass, break glass in case of emergency. And I tell people all the time when I'm talking about spirituality or whatnot, that doesn't mean I'm going to let you push me around because I'm a husband, or I try to keep in mind, when I'm dealing with a waiter or a waitress now that, maybe they got up this morning and their husband or wife said, go away. I don't know what they're dealing with, so I'm going to give you an opportunity. And I always try that, and I will actually tell them, can we hit the start over button because this is fixing to get bad? Or if my wife is doing it, I'm keeping my mouth shut. She will then say, I'm fixing to turn this over to my husband, and I'm going to tell him I'm going to the bathroom, which is like her going, do what you do. And so I was like, okay, I haven't done this in a while. So I've learned to always try. Because again, in the end, it's just like we're telling, I can't talk to people about screaming and yelling at somebody and trying to win people over by yelling and demanding and whatnot if I'm doing the same damn thing. So I have to try to take a different approach and a subtle approach. And I pride myself on being able to do that. And that's, the new me. It is the new me. So, I've been around a lot of wackiness, weird stuff. Done a lot of weird stuff, so.
Now, when you were doing the call center, what was that all about? And what was that, a crisis hotline kind of thing? Or
no, actually not. It was back in the day. Some of our our millennials will not even know what the hell we're talking about. When you used to dial 555-1212. Okay, do you remember those days?
I do.
Directory information is where I actually got my start. And one of the things was we started working with AT&T, got into campaigns, and I was on the first team to do one of the first chat services for Microsoft out of the same call center when they started the whole, it's Christmas, let one of our agents take you and find you something for your wife, for your kids, or whatnot. I headed that team up. And so a lot of it started from there. It was directory assistance and it was customer service. And, I found it funny that people would talk about, the worst customer service in the world is directory assistance. Have you ever listened to you people? We're trying, but when you say, I want to talk to Bob Klahakowicz, and you go, okay, does that begin with a C or a K? Well, I don't know. All right, you try it in a white pages. Okay.
Well, it's interesting. For those of you that are a little younger among us, there used to be a telephone number where you could check the time.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And directory assistance is like, somebody's out there going, well, why don't you just use your GPS? And it's like, we had nothing.
We didn't have a GPS. We had a map. I remember when MapQuest came out and we thought, this is it. This is the new, I can actually print a map and directions. So you would have like a pilot's board on your leg going somewhere and you could read the directions of where you were going. So before that, it was called a road map, It was funny.
Exactly. And us being men never read the roadmap because we can figure out. Yeah.
Now I will tell you this, and I am proud of myself for this. I broke out of the guy mold. I would stop and ask for directions because I spent countless hours in the back seat with my father doing that same stupid crap. Okay. And I'm like, I got to pay. Well, I'm almost there. We're almost there. No, we've been almost there for 3 days. I should have gotten a hotel room, and so I am big about, I don't know if let's pull over and ask. Okay. So I am good on that, but yeah, other than that, thank God for GPS, man. That's one of the greatest things. Other than they track us wherever we go, but it's okay. At least I don't get lost.
and Susan says she still has paper maps in her car.
Yeah. Susan, clean out the glove box. Okay.
You've had your car a while.
Yeah, because if it's got road maps in it, it's not a 2022 anything, probably.
Well, and not only that, the road maps will have changed a great deal in the last 20 years.
Absolutely.
So it's, Rob, I got to tell you, or Reverend Rob, now, when did you get your Reverend's license, and why did you get your license?
I got my license online through Universal Life Church. I got it because I became a Reiki practitioner. And one of the things we found out in doing Reiki, if you're going to do touch or contact Reiki in the state of Florida, you have to have your masseuse license. Now, that's some crazy ass Reiki there, but, all right, that somebody got smart and said real quick, Florida's about license for everything, but they are respectful of spiritual things. So you would either have to do Reiki as a masseuse with a masseuse license or as a minister, and I'm just ministering to you. And it would be for a donation. Down. Yeah. And what's funny about that is I still don't do contact Reiki. It's one of those things where I do more of a distance Reiki, things like that. And for the longest time, I didn't use the Reverend. And then I look at some of these reverends that have no education, somebody told them what to think by somebody who told them what to think.
Right.
And, I'm like, I've listened to you and walked out of your churches, and you can call yourself a reverend. I've got a master's degree in how to deal with people. All right. I think I can use my reverend, and so I started using it.
Absolutely. Now, you are, and we're going to talk about this a great deal on Friday. So if you're listening to the show right now on Friday at noon on KKNW, Reverend Rob, the Tarot with an Attitude is going to come out, and we are going to do some readings, and we're going to talk about tarot card reading and why he uses that in his work and what he does. But I just wanted to touch bases with you on your the work that you're doing with addiction. How are you able to help, or can you help somebody that has addiction, and can get cleaned up, or is that something that they have to really do themselves?
They've got to do a lot of the work themselves most of the time. And that, like that intervention show or whatever, I don't watch it, because you wait till the end, you'll read when everybody forced does an intervention. Very, very seldom does that work. Okay. Love the person, but if they don't want to get it, they're not going to get it. Okay. It's very easy to quit when you're in. I have literally worked with people that went to a rehab center, that they were picked up in a limo, and they had a meat carving station every night at their dinner. Well, when you're locked into some place like that for 90 days, and you get to sit in a whirlpool and listen to, all kinds of great music and it's very easy to stay clean. But most of those people come out and they go right back to the place they lived, the people they knew or whatnot. So if they don't want it, it's there. They have to do the work. And I let them know that right up front. Okay. In working with them, one of the key things is to love them. Don't condone their mistakes. Okay. But they're humans. They need love. They need people to understand. A lot of this is now they've got so much of that crap in their system. It's really beyond their control until they get cleaned out.
Right. And it takes a while. I was interviewing a gentleman. This goes back a while. He wrote the book, The Unfortunates.
Right.
And that is a term. You're familiar with that term. It's a term that law enforcement and others use to identify people who are beyond help.
Yes.
Because they're the unfortunates.
We discount people in our society if they don't seem to fit our idea of whether they're addicts, mentally ill, homeless, we discount them. So therefore, we just throw a little bit of money at it, and then you're on your own.
And he was telling me that in his world, and I'd like your take on this. In his world, there were places where you would go and get state-run places where you get cleaned up. You have like a 5-day cleaning up thing where you would go through the withdrawals and all of that. And then you would go to this thing and you got 2 weeks. And they put you in this thing for 2 weeks, but at the end of 2 weeks, you were out. But there wasn't a lot of follow-up. There wasn't a lot of extra care. So because it became a revolving door where this company or whoever was running it could then charge the state for people that could not pay to go get cleaned up. And then they became repeat cleaning uppers, I guess, for lack of a better term. And is that
one of the places I used to work, we called them frequent flyers.
Really?
Yep. And what would happen in a lot of these cases, because they would come in. Florida has a law that will help them out. You come into a facility, and I'm not going to say any names or anything like that. But they would come in because you could use medication-assisted treatment, Suboxone, oxycodone, or not oxycodone. What's the
methadone?
Methadone. Thank you.
Welcome.
If it was an oxy clinic, somebody would be like, "Show me where it's at." Hell, I might go. But it's one of those things where they could come down safely because they ran out of their money. They ran out of their disability. All their funds run out. They would land safely. Check would come in, right out the door. It was an open door. Okay. You could come in, but once you walked out, you couldn't come back in that time. That had to be a certain amount of time. They'd go out, get all strung out again, 30 days or 3 weeks later, guess who's back? It's a safe place to land until they get their money. So that's why it does get hard. Okay. It does get very hard. And again, the individual problem is nobody is going to get cleaned up till they've hit their rock bottom. And what my rock bottom is might be completely different than yours, Kevin. And until we each hit it, what is it?
And it seems to me like there's lots of folks that can go into a place, get cleaned up, but then because of the fact that they're not taught on how to negotiate life and to deal with the stress and to deal with all the issues that come up on a day-to-day. I have to tell you, I quit smoking again and was having a conversation again with my sister the next day. And we got into an argument because I quit smoking the day before. So the first thing that I went and did, guess what? I went and bought a pack of cigarettes.
There you go.
Because it's hard. You've got to be able to be in a position where you can work through it, and you need help to work through that. We can't do it ourselves.
Right. And some of it is understanding. And I've got a method that I use because I smoked 3 to 4 packs a day for many, many years. I love smoking. I enjoyed it. Menthols, my first cigarettes were Benson and Hedges.
Benson and Hedges menthol.
Menthol 100s, man, and the full flavored. So, I would gag on a regular cigarette, but give me a menthol. Oh, man. I'll be honest with you. I've been done 12 years now, and I still am like, that would be so nice. Okay. Well, so it becomes that thing. And then I used some of my own training methods, and I developed another way to do it. So,
well, let me tell you something. I quit for 15 years and I caught pneumonia in my mid 30s and decided that was it. And then I drove a bus. I had a bad country music song going on in my life. And, my dad died, my dog died, I lost my house, my wife left me, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. That real inspiring music that then we wonder why we're depressed as hell. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
And then my son, who is now 23 at the time, or 24, he comes to my house and we're outside and he lights up a cigarette. And I said, give me one of those. That was the end of that. It was like I smoked that cigarette, went and bought a pack, and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, I had quit once before years ago in police work. A matter of fact, our whole little department and deputies and things like that, we all had a meeting and found out we all smoked menthols. So we all agreed to smoke one brand. So whenever we bummed a cigarette, it was all okay. And we landed on, believe it or not, you got all these deputies and EMTs and police officers that are smoking Virginia Slim Menthol Light 100s. Because right in the middle. My dad's like, is your wife smoking? No. He wouldn't believe it for a long time. He thought he was accusing me of getting my wife to smoke. But
I was just going to say, do you remember the brand of cigarettes that the tagline was just a silly little millimeter longer? They were like 101s.
Yeah, I can't remember what they are though.
They're gone now, I think.
Yeah, no. But I quit. My wife talked me into quitting, and I quit. And I came to work over here in this side of Florida. And I was doing good. And then they found out I had a very heavy background in undercover narcotics. And they started, that's a hilarious story to begin with. And they got me back into doing undercover narcotics, which I swore I would never do again. What'd they do? Buy a body bug that fit in a pack of cigarettes.
Of course.
Well, I'm like, well, of course, if they're going to pat me down, and it held cigarettes. I don't want to, if they make me smoke one, and I was on again for another 12 years. One cigarette. So don't think you can have one toke and go right away unless you just really don't like it. If you like it, acknowledge it, and that's going to be the key is like, no, I can't do this.
Well, and you could not, I would find it hard to believe that you could be undercover and not in that world and not smoke.
Oh, yeah. No, I loved it, and it gave me an excuse. My wife was pissed, but it did. It gave me an excuse, but off to the races I went again. And what? Until I had a stroke. All right. Well, maybe it's the cigarettes. The doctor that's treating me in the hospital, his pack of cigarettes falls out on my bed. Literally, true story. And I quit for about a month, and I'm like, everybody's like, your blood pressure, your blood pressure. Give me a cigarette. And I smoked a cigarette, boom, came right back down. Everything was good. But what I wasn't telling anybody, I was having these little mini strokes. And finally, one day, I'm like, do you want to see your youngest kid grow up? Do you want to see grandkids? And then here's a stupid thing. I had left police work, had qualified, was in one of those places in my life where qualified for free lunches for my kid at school. And I'm sitting here going, you're asking the government to pay for your kid's lunch when I've got $12 worth of cigarettes sitting right here in my drawer, half of which would take care of his lunch for a week to 2 weeks. That was one of the biggest things. I was like, it's enough. This is just stupid. And when I added them all up, that's when I quit again. And I've been 12 years now.
Good for you.
So yeah,
good for you. Good for you. And you don't have any more stroke problems or any of that?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Good. And you seem to be fine. You recovered completely from the strokes. Yeah.
I did. I don't have any outward physical things. The biggest thing I've noticed, and my kids would tell you as a communicator or whatnot, I will see words and I can't get them out of my mouth. It could be something like chair. I can see a chair. So sometimes it comes off like a speech impediment. And I had to tell my family, help me. Don't do that all. Oh, no, let them figure it out. Don't, no, say the damn words so I can move on here. Because you're going to lose this interest in anything I'm saying. But it does happen. And my multitasking, but that gets shorter as we get older anyways. So, but yeah, that was something, yeah. No,
well, you really are quite a communicator. You are really gifted.
Well, thank you. And I've always prided myself on that, being able to do that. So when it hangs up on me like that, it's very, very disheartening, very frustrating. You'll see it happen at some point,
So tell us about your television show.
YouTube, Tarot with an Attitude. Just go to YouTube and type it in. Right now I'm doing live Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Saturdays, my wife joins me. We call it the Magical Unknown, but it's all on Tarot with an Attitude. She reads as well, does runes, different things like that. And I come on. I started it doing it 6 days a week at 9 o'clock Eastern. Now it's 10 o'clock Eastern. As a place where I really emphasize gratitude. If you want to change where you're at, what did you start out today saying thankful for? What are your intentions? Putting it back on people that this is, you can't blame everything on everybody else. I know you may have had a bad trauma, there's trauma, things like that. I'll be glad to help you deal with it. But you still have to make that choice to move forward. And that's what I do. I talk about gratitude, and people come on the show. They'll start asking me questions, and I do very fast reads. And I tell people to come book a session at tarotwithanattitude.com is where my site is. And, that's where a lot of people come. I've done a lot of readings through there. But we don't do a lot of politics because I'm trying to give people a space from that and just learning it's about you right now. Okay, and whatnot. But that's where I developed the term bangarang. I was watching Hook with Robin Williams. And, they're all throwing insults at each other when he starts to catch on. And this is the first time he finds his magic again. Or I like to say reclaims his magic. Because somebody insulted him. He threw another insult out. And when they insulted him back, they went bangarang. What you put out, you get back. And that's where we're at. I remind people how to set your intentions, what do you need help with, and I'll do very quick 1, 2, 3 card readings on the show.
You did. We had you do me. You did me, and you did an extra.
I'm glad you admitted that, Kevin.
I did. I got done. I got done good. It was awesome, and you were great. And and the readings, I'm hoping, were completely accurate, and we're moving forward. And in fact, we are going to go down the road a little bit and see if we can't work together on some of these things.
Would love that. Absolutely love that. Because one of the things I want people to know when I do readings, especially the very religious right, they're like, "Oh, that's a Satan." I'm praying to the same God you do. I just give him more power than you do, and I believe he can talk to me in more ways than one. But I'm not connecting to Satan. It's not all me. It's God gave us these gifts. Everybody's got them. Some people just tune into them and other people don't. And I listen to the messages through the cards and I give those messages. Every show starts with a prayer. So
That's cool.
yeah.
That's now. Is your father still with us?
No, he is not. No, he is not. Neither is my mother.
Did you start doing tarot before they left, though?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No.
Satan incarnate. Our last 3 years of me and my father were not good. It is one of those things where I know he was paranoid delusional, but he had different selfish mean streaks throughout my whole life. I know in his own way he loved me, and I was there with him right up until the last minute. He died with me holding his hand. But from that point, it was done. I never shed a tear. And, or whatnot. But yes, no, I've got one aunt that's still alive that she's like, I love you. I like what you got to say. I want you to be a preacher, but I can't do those tarot things. She just grew up that way, old Southern. And, you're a witch. You're, whatever.
Well, so. I can tell you my belief is, or my knowing is that on the day that you cross over, your dad will be there to meet you, and he's got a great big apology for you.
Oh, I think so. People have asked me, is your dad, because I pick up on other things and it's not my forte, but when I get it, it comes in hard. My dad's never come back to me. My mom's been around once or twice to go, I'm sorry. But my dad, he's off. He's too busy. He's on his own thing. He's never tried whatnot. And, we'll see where that goes. But it doesn't bother me. I don't hold that hate in my heart. And that's one of the things we have to understand. If I choose to hold that hate and anger, I'm choosing to drop my frequency. I'm placing that. And I can't do that. It's time to live.
It's self-defeating.
Yes.
To do that. Because at the end of the day, what that old saying, it's none of my business what you think of me.
Right.
It's none of our business, but if we take it on, then that only goes to defeat us.
That's right. And you give power to the people that you're already angry at. I don't give them that power.
And that makes them angrier.
Yes. So therefore it's on them.
Exactly. It's their deal. Has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. It's going to suck when I'm standing over your coffin, going, do you want me to preach the funeral? Or whatnot, So,
and I've got a question for you. This is just real quick. Isn't some of tarot from the Kabbalah?
Yes. Actually is. And there's the tree of life. There's different ways you look at it. There's different theories, things like that. Matter of fact, on March 18th, and I'll get with you because I don't want to put something out you don't want me to put out or whatnot. I'm actually doing a class people can sign up for. It's Tarot Simplified. Because everybody makes it way more complicated than what it needs to be. And again, individualize it for you. So
we'll talk about it this Friday on KKNW 1150 AM. And if you want to, if you're not in the listening area in Seattle, you can go to www.1150kknw.com and they'll stream it live for you. So
yeah, I checked that out. That's really cool.
Yeah. So we had a gentleman on a couple of weeks ago that got calls from Tijuana, from British Columbia, South Carolina. So we are listened to, and especially people that have got great content, which you do. Rob,
Thank
I
you.
can sit here and talk to you for hours. And
yeah, we could have a ball. We're going to have a ball.
We're going to have a chance to do that.
In the show, I have people from India, Australia, the UK, Canada, and all over the US that are coming in. It's really cool. And I told my wife, I said, to think that these people are coming from around the world and interested in something I have to say, it's like awe-inspiring. It's like, you gave me that time of your day. Thank you. You're
going to change somebody's life, and you already have. And that's well worth your time.
I think I changed my wife's life. I hear her crying every night before I go to bed. And,
That's all right. I buried mine in my backyard. So
there you go. Okay.
Yeah. So Reverend Rob Lee, if you want to go, tarotwithanattitude.com, is that right?
Yes, sir.
tarotwithanattitude.com. One last thing before we go, sir.
Everybody, bangarang. Remember what you put out. And also, one of the things I love about this show, what you put in. What you put in is what you're going to eventually put out. And that everything you're doing today is setting you up for tomorrow. So think about those thoughts and just remember, bangarang.
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 I like that. Stay right there. And thank you, everybody, for listening today. Hold on. Thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of kmmedia.pro. Please visit our website, oddly enough, named kmmedia.pro, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to each other because each other's all we've got. We'll see you next time.